Karunya Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyana Gurnanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Praptasya Kalyana Gurnanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Baditramadhyam Manasurasena Mahaprabhu Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratanama Niramajanadu Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratanama Jokta Sabhaktam Sa Neyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasadam Satana Truptam Haribhakta Sangam Chaturvidha Kridvaiva trupti bhajato sadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Shiradikama Dhavayarapara Madhura Lila Gunarupanamna Shiradika Para Pratikshana Swa Danalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Pratikshana Swa Danalalupasya Nikunjayono Ratikelisidhyai Yajali Virjukti Apekshaniyam Nikunjayono Ratikelisidhyai Tatrati Daksha Ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Sakchadharidvena Shamasta Shashri Rukta Tathava Vyataiva Sarvi Sakchadharidvena Shashri tu prabhuja priya eva tasya bande guru shri charanara vrindam. Yasya prasada bhagava prasada yasya prasada nagati kutapi. Yasya prasada bhagava prasada yasya prasada dayam subham tasya yasatmin sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vindam. Dhyayam Stuvam Tasya Yasatri Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vindam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Same Nitina Mine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachatari Shatarine Nam Deve Gauravani Prachar Sanavadi Pachatari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Gaur Nityananda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, oh, Hare Krishna, oh, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, oh, Hare Rama, oh, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hariyaraye Namah, Krishna Jadavaye Namah, Jadavaye Madhavaye Keshavaye Namah, Hari Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raguna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jai Om Vishwapara Paramahansa Prabhajakacarya Sutara Sarasi Shamar. His Divine Grace, Abhachanavina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Pratishta Bhiviti Samstapakacharya. Vaishnava Siromani Patit Pavana Shri Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patita Udhari Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhakta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai. अनंत कुछ वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासरी गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल से नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। प्रेम नाम संकीर्तनेक जनाक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिनंदन श्रीमन गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि मावरणावतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रमदान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जय की जय। जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहद दांग ट्रांसलेंट बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपिना राधा कुंद समकुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रज भूमि वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय। देलोश श्री श्री राधा नील माधव की जय। श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुण श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम चित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु स्मृत देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना कनिष्ठ भगवान की जय। हरि पवन सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जी की जय। जगंगा माई जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्रीमती राधा रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौर हरि परमानंदी हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga.
Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadayine Hiranyakasipurvakshaha Silatankanakalaye Ito Narasimha Parato Narasimha Yeto Yeto Yamito To Narasimha Bahe Narasimha Hrudaye Narasimha Narasimha Madim Saranam Prapadye Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakham Adbhuta Singam Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jayo Jagadisha Hare Jayo Jagadisha Hare Jayo Jagadisha Hare जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंहदेव जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय से विघ्न विनाश श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह देव प्रहलाद महाराज की समेत भक्त वृंद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे।
श्री वृंदाई तुलसी देवाई प्रियाई के सब सत्या विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवत्तये नमो नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी देवाई प्रियाई के सब सत्या विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवत्तये नमो नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवत्तये नमो नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namo Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namo Radha Krishna Seva Pano Eya Bilasi Shri Radha Krishna Seva Prabhu Heya Vilasi. Je tumharo saranala tar vancha purna. Tumi kripa kari karo tare Vrindavan Navasi. Mora eya vilas, vilas kunja diyavan. Aminayane Reposada Jugala Ruparasi. Nini Vedanadara Sakirayanu Gatakara. Sevayadi Karani Karani Jadasi. Dina Krishna Das Koi Hey Namora Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sarayana Vasi. Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayana Vasi. Jani kane sapapani Brahma tadi kane sa Tane tane prana santu Pradakshina pade pade. Jani kani sapapani Brahma tadi kani sa Tani tani prana santu Pradakshina pade pade. Kani sapapani brahmachari kani sa tani tani prana sante parakshina pade pade. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Tusimara Nidaya Tusimara, Jaya Tusimara Nidaya Tusimara. Jaya Brinda Devi, Jaya Brinda Devi, Jaya Brinda Devi, Jaya Brinda Devi. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namo. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namo. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namo. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. O Tulsi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you as wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him. You make him a resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the angels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in love with Shri Shri Radha and Govinda. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kistakam ki jai. Chaito Darpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahadabhagni Vapam Shri Akari Vachantika Vittaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratiparam Purnamrita Sradanam Sarvatmasnam Param Paramijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Nam Akari Bhavna Yasavachati Tatrakitanya Mitrashmane Mukala Edagrisitava Kripayahamavamamapi Durdhaiva Mitrishaniya Janinanuraga Tinadapi Sunichena Tarodati Saishna Amanna Manudina Titaniya Sarabhari Jananamna Jananna Sundari Kavitamba Jagari Shakamaye Bhava Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavatar Bhakti Rahaitu Kitvai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitamam Visame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tava Pada Pankajastita Duli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galorashru Dharaya Adanam Gadigada Rudaya Gira, Ulakain Chitam Bapu Kada, Tabadam Grahani Bavisati, Juga Itam Nimisena, Jakusha Pravisa Itam, Sunya Itam Jagata Sarvam, Govinda Virahinami, Asli Shabha Padaratam Pinastuma. Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart over the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life or repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large. God is expressly raised in the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and strong and street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer our respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I'm fallen in the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. When my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name, or will my voice choke up, and will the hairs on my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years and more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he sure remains so, even if he hinders me rightfully by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that must be avoided. They are as follows. Number 1, to blaspheme devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2, to consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3, to disobey the order of the spiritual master. 4, to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5, to consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6, to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7, to commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8, to consider chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activity karma kanda. 9, to instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10, to not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and maintain material attachment, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It's also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone. And they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Tejo Varimidam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Musha
Son of Vasudeva, all pervading personality of Godhead. I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes,
creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes.
of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all
And
manifestations.
he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahmaji,
It is she only who first imparted Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahmaji,
the original living being.
the original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion,
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations
as one is bewildered by the illusory
of water
representations
seen in fire or land seen in water.
of water seen to fire, of land seen to water.
Only because of him do the material universes,
Only because of him do the material universes,
temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature,
temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of
appear
nature,
factual although they are unreal.
appear factual, although they are
I
unreal.
therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri
who
Krishna,
is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental
which
abode,
is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
which is forever free from the illusory representation of material world.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Dharma projita kaitravudra,
Dharma Prujita Kaitavutra,
paramo nirmatsaranam satam,
Paramo Nyamas Saranam Satam,
vedyam vastavam atravastu,
Vedyam Vastavam Astravastu,
shivedam tapa trayon mulanam,
Shivadam Taputrayamanam,
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite,
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni,
Kim Vapurer Ishwaraha,
Kimva Paririshvaraha,
Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate Traha,
Sadyorudya Varidya Titra,
Kriti Bihisa Sursabhistakshana,
Kritibhi Shushu Vishtatkana,
completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
completely rejecting all religious activities which are material
This
motivated.
Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavad Purana propounds the high truth,
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in the
The
heart.
highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The high truth, the reality is distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such truth uproots the threefold
This
miseries.
beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his
is
maturity
sufficient in itself for God realization.
is sufficient itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other
As soon
scripture?
as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
by this culture of knowledge,
by this culture of
the
knowledge,
Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
the The Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nikama kalpataror galitam phalam.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam.
Sukhamukad amrita dravya samyutam.
Sukamukhad amrita dravya sangitam.
Pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam.
Pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam.
Muhur ahoraska bhuvi bhavukaha.
Mura hurasika bhuvi bhavuka.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish my
The
Bhagavatam.
mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures.
You must chew fruit the desired tree of Vedic literature.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Shishukadeva Goswami.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna.
Shambhantam Swakata Krishna.
Punya Shravana Kirtana.
Punya Shravana Kirtana.
Hridyantaksto hi Bhadrani.
Vidyantasto hiya bhadrani.
Vidunati Suhitsatam.
Vidu noti suritsatam.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from Vedic
or
literature,
to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from it directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
is itself righteous activity.
it is self-righteous activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about Krishna,
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's heart,
acts as a best wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing
and
friend,
purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purifies the devotee constantly engaged in hearing of him.
Nastapresu abhadresu
Nasta prayishva bhadrishu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
nityam bhagavata sevaya
bhagavati uttamasloke
bhagavati uttama sloke
bhaktir bhavati naistaki.
bhakti bhavati nastiki.
In this way, the devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and from the devotees,
and from the devotees,
he becomes fixed in the dormant. He becomes fixed in the transcendental devotional service to the Lord.
he becomes fixed and devotional service to the Lord.
Tadarajas tamo bhavo
Tadarajastamo bhavo
kamalobadayaschaye
kamalobhadayascha
chete taranavidam
chetetera naviram
stitvam sattve prasidati.
stham savi prasidati.
By development of devotional service,
By development of devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion of ignorance,
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
and as material lust and avarice are diminished.
Evam prasana manaso
Evam prasanna manas
bhagavad bhakti yogataha
Bhagavad Bhakti Yoga
bhagavad tattva vijnanam
Bhagavad Tattva
mukta
Jnana
sangasya jayate.
Mukta Sangasya Jayate.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped away,
the candidate remains steady in his position of pure
the
goodness,
candidate which remains steady in position of good
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by devotional
and
service
understands the science of God perfectly.
and understands the science of God perfectly.
Vidyate hirdaya granthis
Vidyate Hridaya Granthi
chidyante sarva samsaya
Chidyante Sarva Samsaya
siyante jasya karmani
Chiyante Chasya Karmani
drista evatmanishvare.
Drusta Evadmanishvari.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection
Thus the Bhakti Yoga severs the hardness of material
and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
and enables us to come at one to the stage of samshaya samagam,
understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or his devotees in Krishna consciousness
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, text number 36. Iti uktva rosa tam raksho.
Diva Shu.
Iti uktva rosa tam raksho.
Ityuktva rushatam rakshu.
Vayasyan rishi balaka.
Vayasyan Rishi Balakaha.
Koshikyapa upasprisya.
Kosikyapa Upasprisya.
Vajram visasarjaha.
Vavashram Vishat Sarjaha.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. the son of the Rishi, his eyes red hot with anger, touched the water of the river Koshika while speaking to his playmates, and discharged the following thunderbolts of words, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The circumstances under which Maharaj Pariksit was cursed were simply childish. As it appears from this verse, Shringi was showing his impudency amongst his playmates who were innocent. Any sane man would have prevented him from doing such great harm to all human society by killing a king like Maharaj Pariksit just to make a show of acquired Brahminical power. The inexperienced son of a Brahmana committed a great mistake. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we see the son of the Rishi, his eyes red hot with anger. Very significant point. That is, that when there is unnecessary anger due to various misconceptions and material attachments, there are physical symptoms of it, such as very fast and strained breathing and red hot, his eyes red hot with anger. So these symptoms develop when one is overcome by anger. And anger comes after frustration of material desires, and anger is destructive, this type of anger. Of course, when Hanuman got angry at Ravana, that was justified because Ravana kidnapped Sita Devi. But when a person gets angry unnecessarily, as Shringi does, and there's a mixture of inflated false ego, misconception, ignorance, all these things are in play, and then he wants to show off his power of cursing Maharaj Pariksit, who really did not deserve such a curse. But you see, all these things are in play: the false ego, the desire to be popular, or the desire to show off one's power, and then also the desire to be to impress other people. So here, this inappropriate anger was manifested. This is further explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, because the third chapter, 20th, third canto, 20th chapter, 18th verse, in the verse and in the purport, Prabhupada explains the 5 types of ignorance. And it says, first of all, Brahma created from his shadow the coverings of ignorance of the conditioned souls. They are 5 in number and are called Tamishra, Andhachamisha, Tamas, Moha, and Mahamoha. So what are these 5 types? Prabhupada explains it in detail. He says, the conditioned souls or living entities who come to the material world to enjoy sense gratification are covered in the beginning by 5 different conditions. The first condition is a covering of tamishra, or anger. Constitutionally, each and every living entity has minute independence. It is misuse of that minute independence for the conditioned soul to think that he can enjoy like the Supreme Lord, or to think, why shall I not be a free enjoyer like the Supreme Lord? This forgetfulness of his constitutional position is due to anger or envy. The living entity, being eternally a part and parcel, servitor of the Supreme Lord, can never, by constitution, be an equal enjoyer with the Lord. When he forgets this, however, and tries to be one with the Lord, his condition is called tamishra. Even in the field of spiritual realization, this tamishra mentality of the living entity is hard to overcome. That's a very significant statement. Even in the field of spiritual realization, this tamishra mentality of the living entity is hard to overcome. In trying to get out of the entanglement of material life, there are many who want to be one with the Supreme. Even in their transcendental activities, this lower grade mentality of tamishra continues. Again, another significant statement. Even in their transcendental activities, this lower grade mentality of tamishra continues. Under tamishra, this is the second type of ignorance, involves considering death to be the ultimate end. The atheists generally think that the body is the self, and that everything is therefore ended with the end of the body. Yeah, one time on our food truck, there was this one young lady, she must have been maybe 25 or 28, and she was a college graduate, and she had some kind of a good job, and she was taking some prasadam, and I was talking with her, and right away I could realize she was a pretty staunch atheist, and I asked her what her goal in life was, and she said, I want to enjoy as much as I can this life. I want to be happy. I said, is that all? He said, what do you mean, is that all? I said, why are you limiting yourself? What do you mean limiting myself? I'm not limiting myself. I tell you, I want to enjoy life to its fullest. I said, there's more than simply that. I said, what do you mean there's more than that? When I die, there's nothing. I said, well, how do you know that? He said, that is my only prayer in life. I said, who are you praying to? He said, that's not your business. So, this is her only prayer in life, that when I die, there's nothing. And that's exactly what this under tamishra is. The atheists generally think that the body is the self, and that everything is therefore ended with the end of the body. Thus, they want to enjoy life as far as possible during the existence of the body. See, that's why she said, I want to enjoy life as much as I can, to the fullest. So, I mean, Prabhupada has explained everything perfectly, right? But it's up to us to realize it. So when you go out on Sankirtan, or you go out with the food truck and you're preaching to people, then you begin to understand and realize what he's talking about, right? Otherwise, I mean, I did not set her up to say these things. This is her belief. This is her life. This is her culture, right? That there's nothing after death. There's nothing. And that's her prayer. She's not even sure about that, right? But that's her prayer. Thus, they want to enjoy material life as far as possible during the existence of the body. Their theory is, as long as you live, you should live prosperously. Never mind whether you commit all kinds of so-called sins. That's another point. They don't believe in sin. They think it's some dogma of phony religion, that there's such a thing as a sin. Of course, they'll admit murder is not good. They might admit stealing is not good. But illicit sex is wonderful, and making as much money as you can and building up a big bank account and buying big houses and big cars and big this and big that, that's okay. Even if other people have to suffer, that's okay, so that you can enjoy all the opulence. So we see But sometimes people think there's nothing wrong with murder. I mean, you can murder Trump. It's okay. It's a good thing because he was a bad guy. Right? So you see, they can justify anything. A person can justify anything when they're attached to sense gratification. It just depends on circumstances. So their theory is, as long as you live, you should live prosperously. Never mind whether you commit all kinds of so-called sins. You must eat sumptuously. So why do you think there's so many restaurants? Because people want to eat sumptuously. You know, like for example, I had a friend of mine who was also a geotech engineer. I had to hire him to get rid of the problems that the previous owner made on the land that I bought. So every year he would invite me to Cinco Maya, right? Cinco de Mayo, yeah. Cinco de Mayo is a Mexican festival, right? And the highlight of the Cinco de Mayo festival in his property, he had a nice big property in Redmond, was roasting a full pig. So when I asked him, what goes on, he told me about that with a big smile, and he was proud of it, And I said, well, okay. I said, well, I really appreciate you inviting me, but I'm a little busy that weekend, so I don't think I can come. But that's just culture. That's what Cinco de Mayo is all about, right? They roast a pig, they dance, they talk nonsense, they drink wine. This is their culture, right? It's not the culture of Krishna consciousness. We don't roast pigs, we don't drink wine and all that stuff. So we're living in the United States with many different cultures present. And unless we have a strong culture of Krishna consciousness, our kids are going to get contaminated. Because when they're roasting that pig, they think they're doing the right thing. They think that spreading the pig meat to everyone in the festival is mercy. You say, this is the problem. Culture. There are culture wars going on right now. So never mind whether you commit all kinds of so-called sins. You must eat sumptuously. Beg, borrow, and steal. And if you think that by stealing and borrowing you are being entangled in sinful activities for which you will have to pay, then just forget that misconception. Because after death, everything is finished. See, Prabhupada has perfectly defined the mentality of this sinful culture that's being practiced, not only in the United States, but in almost every country of the world. This sinful, even in India, this sinful culture. Like, I saw one video about gourmet food in Rajasthan. And they show this man who is a Rajasthani, and I think he was a, what do you call those guys? He was part of the Kshatriya tradition of Rajasthan. I forget the name of it. Anyway, I'll think of it in a minute. And he was showing the traditional Rajasthani diet. They get a lamb, and they slaughter the lamb, and then they, of course, get rid of the intestines and all that goo, and then they put the different cut-up parts of the lamb into this very, well, first of all, they put a lot of ghee on the lamb, and then they put it in this burlap bag, and then they bury it underground on top of hot coals. And then they leave some hole or something so the air can come in and some air can go out. That's their culture. This is Rajasthan, right? And then afterwards, when it's all cooked, they're and they put Indian spices also. But the man said the key is to put a lot of ghee. So the whole thing is horrible, right? And that's India. And what are the names? They're the Rajasthani Kshatriyas. I forget the name of them. Rajputs, that's it. They're Rajputs. And he was proud. He said, this is our culture, right? So, Prabhupada says, beg, borrow, and steal. And if you think that by stealing and borrowing you are being entangled in sinful activities for which you will have to pay, then just forget that misconception. Because after death, everything is finished. No one is responsible for anything he does during this life. This is the thought of this lady that I met and so many other people. Right? This is what their belief is. The atheistic conception of life is killing human civilization, for it is without knowledge of the continuation of eternal life. Here is our dilemma. Prabhupada explains it as part of Untitled Mishra. And then he says, this Untitled Mishra ignorance is due to tamas. So that's the third type of ignorance created by Lord Brahma. The condition of not knowing anything about the spirit soul is called tamas. The material world is also generally called tamas. By the way, with this lady that I was talking to, when I said, why are you limiting yourself? She said, what do you mean limiting myself? I want to enjoy life to the fullest. I said, no, there's life after death. She said, I don't believe that. I said, you have an eternal soul. Why you want to deny that? She said, I don't believe that. I said, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. It's the fact that you have a tremendous potential to live eternally. And if you really want to be happy, you're only going to be happy when you're back in your spiritual body without being subject to the laws of material nature. I said, what laws are you talking about? Well, that's an interesting point. There are laws of material nature. First of all, everyone is subject to the laws of nature. Now, what are the laws of nature? You have what's called kala, karma, and guna. Okay? But there's a lot more besides kala, karma, and guna. Because you have also the threefold miseries, and then you have, adhyatma, adhidevika, adhyatmika, adhidevika, and then you have birth, death, old age, and disease. And then you have also the five types of ignorance. So all these things, and then you have the laws. Besides those things, you have, as we read the other day, if you try for sense gratification, it's always followed by misery. 5th chapter, 22nd verse in the purport. And so these are, the laws of material nature are a little complicated, and there's many of them. And until we learn what they are, we're living in what's called a fool's paradise, because we're happily in ignorance. That's why they say ignorance is bliss, condemning ourselves by committing sinful activities every day, and unknowingly, because we refuse to accept transcendental knowledge. This is a very, very dangerous situation for humanity. And then also, the laws of nature, I'm going to make a full list of them. I'll read them out tomorrow. It's very complicated, and it's completely opposite to what everyone thinks that's happening to them in this material world. Okay, so then Prabhupada continues. He says, the material world is also generally called tamas, because 99% of its living entities are ignorant of their identity as soul. That was the whole point about this lady. When I told her she had an eternal soul, she refused to accept it. Almost everyone is thinking that he is this body. He has no information of the spirit soul. guided by this misconception. See, in Christianity, they talk about the devil. Do we talk about the devil in Krishna consciousness? Let me ask that question. Anyone have an opinion? Well, it's a bigger issue than that, but yeah, you're on the right track. Do we say that Maya is the devil? No, we don't say she's the devil. So what is the devil then in Krishna consciousness? It's misconception. Say misconception. And that's what the devil does. Also, he put false ideas into the mind. If you read the Bible, he put false ideas into the mind of Eve. And then she put the same false ideas into the mind of her husband, Adam. And that caused the fall of Adam and Eve and the curse on humanity. Right? And what's going on today? Where was the problem with this lady that I was talking about? Misconceptions. Right? So this misconception is the enemy. What do they do in schools today? They teach misconceptions to the kids. So you see, there are many agents of the devil. And if you use the Christian, those agents are the teachers and the scientists and the philosophers. They're teaching misconceptions to everyone. Okay? Guided by this misconception, one always thinks, this is my body, and anything in relationship with this body is mine. For such misguided living entities, sex life is the background of material existence. In other words, most people are living, working hard day and night. What for? To enjoy sex. And we see it, the Me Too hashtag, if you know what that is. It was all about women being exploited by powerful men. And all those powerful men are big guys in society. They're politicians and billionaires and CEOs and things like that. And they were movie stars, and they were all shamed for all the nasty things they did to women that were trying to get a job as an actress or trying to keep their job in a company, and these men exploited them. So, actually, the conditioned souls in ignorance in this material world are simply guided by sex life. As soon as they get the opportunity for sex life, they become attached to so-called home, motherland, children, wealth, and opulence. All these attachments increase moha, which is the next one, the fourth type of ignorance, or the illusion of the bodily concept of life, also increases. Thus, the idea that I am this body and everything belonging to this body is mine also increases, and as the whole world is put into moha, sectarian societies, Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Proud Boys, Antifa. We go down the list. There's millions of these societies, all based on ignorance, on the bodily concept of life, on moha, the illusion of the bodily concept of life. Black lives matter, this thing, that thing. White lives matter more than black lives. It's unending. Swaraj, the Sikhs, they say Khalistan, and then the Kashmiris, they say Kashmir for Pakistan, right? It's unending. It's everywhere, all over the world. Every country, every neighborhood, every house. So this idea that I am this body and everything belonging to this body is mine also increases, and as the whole world is put into moha, sectarian societies, families, nationalities are created, and they fight with one another. Mahamoha, means to be mad, meaning crazy, after material enjoyment. Especially in the age of Kali, everyone is overwhelmed by the madness to accumulate paraphernalia for material enjoyment. Xbox, Fortnite, we can go through the list. All these paraphernalia for material enjoyment. And I don't want to say all of them because there's a lot of disgusting things. These definitions are very nicely given in Vishnu Purana, wherein it is said, Tamo viveko moha syad antakarana vibramaha. I'm not going to read the whole Sanskrit. Oh, I'm missing a third page. Okay. Anyway, oh no, I think that's the end. He just gives that reference of the Vishnu Purana. You have to look it up. Anyway, it's the same thing as what we read. So, you have the kala, karma, guna. You have the threefold miseries. You have material desires. You have eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And you have the laws of nature, all these things. And then you have the 5 types of ignorance. All these things are keeping us prisoners in this world. And it's not easy to get out of it. It's not easy to, but Lord Chaitanya gave a very easy way. Krishna gave a very easy way. He says that Devi yesa gunamai mama maya duratya mam evaye prapadyante mayamitam tarantite. He says, the first 2 lines of this verse, 7th chapter, 14th verse, it's impossible to get out of the material nature. You cannot defeat it. But it's very easy if you completely surrender to the Lord. And he says the same thing, Sarvadharman prityaja mamikam saranam vrajat. So, something that's impossible becomes easy. How is that? Well, because of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. His mercy is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Anybody, whether you understand the words, you don't understand the words, whether you read Bhagavad Gita or if you never read Bhagavad Gita, whether you know how to read or you don't know how to read, if you chant Hare Krishna sincerely and associate favorably with devotees, you can be liberated in this lifetime, and rather easily, simply by chanting, taking prasadam, and dancing. Dancing is also important. As we said, Prabhupada said, dancing is scientific. The whole process is scientific. Singing, chanting, dancing, and feasting. The feasting is also scientific. It's all planned by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya to help people who are so unfortunate in this age, entangled by all these things, kala, karma, guna, threefold miseries, material desires, laws of nature, 5 types of ignorance, birth, death, old age, and disease, and basically misconceptions. Misconceptions that are taught as the truth. Misconceptions given by people that you accept as an authority, like the teacher in the school, or a philosopher, or a scientist, or a politician. People you look up to as they should know what's right, but yet they're teaching misconceptions. Okay, so we see from this verse, and this short verse and this short purport, there's a big philosophy behind it. Shringi was showing his impotency. Impotency means he's falsely proud and showing it off, how proud he is about how much power he has. You know, as we said yesterday, if you want to know who a person is, give them power. Then you'll find out who they are. And most people, when they get power, they show that they are a complete rascal. Because they have no respect at all for Krishna or for the living entities, because they think they're better than everyone else and they know better than everyone else. And they can say or do anything, and you have to follow their authority. Just like yesterday we read that the personality of Kali established his authority. How did he do that? He was seeking an opportunity to establish his authority, and by the grace of the Lord, he found a hole in the puffed up, inexperienced son of a Brahmana. That's an extremely important phrase or sentence that Prabhupada writes. The personality of Kali Yuga, therefore, was seeking the opportunity to establish authority, and by the grace of the Lord, we're talking about Krishna now, the Lord, by his mercy, Kali found a hole in the puffed up, inexperienced son of a Brahmana. The little Brahmana wanted to show his prowess, in other words, his power, in destruction. He shows his power by destroying the life of Maharaj Parikshit. You see? This is envy. It's not enough that he can insult Maharaj Parikshit. He has to destroy him, has to kill him. That's what Ravana was trying to do also. He takes Ramachandra's wife away from him, and then, because Ramachandra wants to get his wife back, he tries to kill him. You see? This is envy, and envy is one of the worst things that exists in this world. So, the little Brahmana wanted to show his prowess in destruction, and he had the audacity to punish such a great king as Maharaj Parikshit. He wanted to take the place of Lord Krishna after his departure. He wants to be God. This pimp, this little pipsqueak, Shringi, he wants to act like God because he has some little power, right? And he wants to show how he can kill Maharaj Parikshit, who's a pure devotee. And it's unbelievable that the puffed up false ego of a person can come to such low-class acts of behavior. He had the audacity, meaning he had the gall, the nerve, he gave himself the freedom to punish a pure devotee, and such a great king as Maharaj Parikshit. He wanted to take the place of Lord Krishna after his departure. These are the principal signs of upstarts who want to take the place of Sri Krishna under the influence of the age of Kali. An upstart with a little power wants to become an incarnation of the Lord. There are many false incarnations after the departure of Lord Krishna from the face of the globe, and they are misleading the innocent public by accepting the spiritual obedience of the general mass of people to maintain false prestige. So, they're misleading the innocent public by accepting the spiritual obedience of the general mass of people to maintain false prestige. In other words, what he's saying here basically is the worst pretenders, the worst violators of, let's say, Sanatana Dharma, are priests, right? And Prabhupada has repeated this over and over again now in this part of the Bhagavatam. They are the priests, the so-called Brahmanas, the so-called leaders of society. And what are they doing? An upstart with a little power. So, I mean, Shringi is a Brahman son, right? And he's a Brahmana. Right? And he says, Prabhupada says that the Brahmanas in Kali Yuga, they're coming from Shringi. Shringi was the first one that got corrupted in Kali Yuga. And he started this whole idea that Brahmanas are better than everybody else. They have the exclusivity of studying Sanskrit. So they don't teach Sanskrit to lower classes. They only teach it to their kids. And so forth. That whole messed up caste system that's practiced by Hinduism today, it all started right there. Because Kali found an opening to establish his authority of misconception. There are many false incarnations after the departure of Lord Krishna from the face of the globe, and they are misleading the innocent public by accepting the spiritual obedience of the general mass of people. Now, what does that mean? That's a very important statement. Someone who pretends to be a pure devotee or a Brahmana, can use the culture of Krishna consciousness to impose their nonsense and be worshipped by a large number of people. Who, when it says innocent public, people who are not well educated, they can be fooled by these false prophets. This is the problem in India, the man-God problem. If I went on, what is it called, Doordarshan? Is that Indian television? If I went on Doordarshan and I said, ladies and gentlemen in India, I want to make a request. Will the incarnation of Krishna stand up? How many people do you think would stand up? Huh? 100. I would say thousands. Right? They all claim to be incarnation of Krishna. You know, India is a place, like Prabhupada said, America is famous because every year they have new model cars. And then he said, and India is famous because every year they have new Bhagawans. I once told this to one Indian man. He got really angry at me. But it's a fact. Every year there's a new Bhagawan, or many new Bhagawans. So this is the problem. So therefore, they are misleading the innocent public by accepting the spiritual obedience of the general mass of people to maintain false prestige. In other words, the personality of Kali got the opportunity to reign through the son of a Brahmana Shringi. Haribol. Very, very serious subject. Are there any questions? Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Maharaj, because some people say that the boy, Shringi, he did that, it's like dutifully by...
protecting his father.
Right, for reputation, for whatever, you know, for the prestigious father, that his son would do normally. Now, some people may argue in that way.
You know the names of those rascals that say that? I was just kidding. What did we say was the fault of Shringi yesterday? We said that he acted independent of his father. So how much does he actually respect his father? He wants to kill Maharaj Parikshit, a pure devotee, who is a Raja Rishi, right? He wants to kill him on the spur of the moment, and he doesn't even refer to his father. So how can you say he respects his father? He doesn't respect his father. I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just...
No, it's good. It's good to have this kind of interaction. Good, because then we can really get into it, and then... Because, you see, what happened, like Prabhupada mentioned about Prahlad Maharaj, something that when his father was killed in front of him, some people said that Prahlad Maharaj was a coward, you know, because he didn't protest. And Prabhupada even asked the disciple, like, I'm sitting here, and some people come here trying to kill me. Would you sit down and then not doing nothing?
No, they would act.
Yeah. So, you see, this kind of thing, but it's a duty of son to, because the son sees the father as a Gurujan.
Okay, now this is a good point. You're making a very good point. Mm-hmm. I'll explain. Prahlad Maharaj was a devotee. Therefore, his duty is to Krishna, not his father. If his father is a demon, he has no duty. But he acted, he practiced his duty after the father was killed. He begged the Lord, who offered him any benediction he wants, bring my father back. So he acted, he followed his duty, but after the father was killed. And while his father was alive and committing all kinds of egregious acts, he had no duty to his father, because it wasn't his father, it was his father's false ego. It wasn't the real person. It was this false ego full of misconceptions that he can kidnap he can scare or try and kill Prahlad Maharaj because he's a devotee, right? And that he should worship his father rather than Krishna, because Krishna is the enemy of his father because he killed his father's brother, right? So he's an enemy. So Prahlad Maharaj had no duty to that false representation of so-called father. But once he was killed by the Lord, he begged the Lord to save his father. Now he was acting in his duty because his father no longer had that false ego.
To forgive him, I think.
Yeah. Yes. And the point is, Prahlad Maharaj understood also, his father's not dead. He cannot kill the soul. You see, there's a lot of philosophy involved with this, right? Because other people say, no, he was not a real boy. He should have defended his father. It was, he was not a good son. No, he was a real son. He had real knowledge that father's not dead just because the Lord killed him. In fact, he's fortunate that the Lord killed him.
So basically, the two ways of understanding, one, if either we are materially affectionate to the body, just like Arjuna was very affectionate to his relatives, and then on the other hand, for the reality is that it's only Krishna who stands really, that instead of being following so-called tradition, because according to Vedic system, the father is like a god,
Again, the point is misconception.
Yeah.
Misconception is the problem. So as long as there's a misconception, and there's 5 types of those misconceptions, we just went over them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thinking that the body is the person, not the soul, or ignoring the existence of the soul. See? So therefore, everything else they think is going to be wrong. Everything else they think is going to be
So it's
wrong.
only Krishna that prevails, basically. Krishna is the only...
Krishna is the absolute truth. So if they reject the absolute truth, everything they think or do is going to be wrong. It's all
So
misconception.
we can see that that's what Krishna was trying to tell Arjuna, like kill all those people. And then in the second chapter, Krishna actually explains, describes the soul can never be killed, so on and so on. So basically, the whole idea that
Unless we teach our kids this knowledge, even though they're your kids, our kids, they're all going to go into misconception. Because the misconception is being taught everywhere in this society. It's all present in the society. That you should, respect people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and all these are big guys. These are really successful. This is who we have to emulate. No, we have to emulate Prahlad Maharaj. You have to emulate. If you want to emulate someone, you should follow the example of Prahlad Maharaj. He was not subject to misconception because he was taught by Narada Muni himself. He accepted him as his guru. And that was in the womb of his mother. Right in the womb of his mother, he became a devotee. Okay, so...
Another good example of this is like Bali Maharaj too,
Yeah.
He rejected, which is really no ordinary thing to reject your guru, but he did that for the sake of...
No, because his guru said something that was wrong, blatantly wrong. So then he's no longer guru if he starts trying to convince you to do something that's wrong. Not give anything to...
So
to
the whole
Vishnu.
idea, as you said, it's a misconception.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yes. As soon as a misconception enters in the mind,
Right.
it corrupts everything.
If you don't believe, if you don't focus on Krishna, the supreme absolute truth, everything else is misconception.
Yes. Always remember the Lord, never forget the Lord.
And then all other injunctions, whether they're do's or don'ts, they're only meant to
Some
Yes.
do's and some don'ts. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everything else is subordinate to that.
Good. Yeah. Come on.
That's the small or big, they all count. Okay, 1 second, let him say, and then you can come here. Come over here.
She washing.
What?
She wants to go.
No, go ahead.
So what was the misconception of Shringi? Like inexperienced or puffed up or like? he
No,
was-
misconception was he thought he could act independent of his father.
Okay.
He didn't have to ask him permission to do this. He thought that he himself was the authority now because he had the power of cursing.
Okay.
See? Never do anything important without asking your father or your guru.
Thank you.
You don't have to ask the guru, "Can I go to the toilet?" Right? But any important question you should ask, just to be sure you're doing the right thing. You a Siksha or Diksha guru? Go ahead. Okay, come.
Hare Krishna. Even when I studied in school, there was one saying in Tamil, like, and there was one say this, Mata, Pita, Guru, Devam. But in the textbook it says, and even my parents taught me, like, mom should always point to the dad, and dad should show the way to seek a nice guru, and guru should show the God. So that's the way it is actually. It's even said in the textbook in one of my Tamil, like, when I used to learn. But people have the misconception saying Mata, Pita, Guru, Devam. So mom and dad are the primary God. No one else is greater
God.
than mom and dad. Yeah, that's
Not
kind
gurus,
Of, not
God.
gurus, yeah, not guru and God. So that the misconception starts from there. So people.
So
have
what if
that
your father
misconception.
says you should, it's okay to eat meat because that's tradition in our caste?
No,
No, but there are.
there are people.
You know.
Yeah. So they have that misconception. Okay, Mata. Okay, it's aligned in that way. Mom and dad are the first. They are shown in the hierarchy. So they are the God. They are everything, and God
No,
is
as
all
long as they're
where it's in.
devotees, it's correct.
Correct. Yeah.
But if they're not devotees, it's not
Devotees.
correct.
Yes, right. So that's how people misunderstand things.
Well, that's why it says here that there are many false incarnations after the departure of Lord Krishna from the face of the globe, and they are misleading the innocent public by accepting the spiritual obedience of the general mass of people to maintain false prestige. They're exploiting the spiritual obedience that's part of the culture, but it's not supposed to be spiritual obedience to nonsense people, even if it's mother or father.
Yes.
Yeah. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.